Good morning. This is Pastor Bray with Tree Ridge Community Church, and I welcome you to Miss Sue's Kitchen. This is just a brief introduction to the message I'll be preaching at church today, which I'm calling Evolution, the Occult, Madness, and the Power of Witchcraft. I do believe that there is a direct connection between the events that are taking place and have been taking place in the world over the last several years, and the concept of evolution, its direct connection to the occult, and I believe the spirit that is behind this, politically and scientifically and otherwise, is the spirit of witchcraft. The Bible speaks about this. Paul talks about it in Ephesians, and he mentions this idea that we are battling against powers and principalities. And in the book of Galatians, he delineates this out in the sinful nature. And part of the sinful nature, he says, sexual immorality, which we would all agree, impurity, debauchery, idolatry, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, etc., drunkenness, orgies. But he also mentions, as part of the fallen nature, the sin of witchcraft. Some have suggested that the sin of witchcraft is the sin that desires power and control. And I think it is reasonable to say that over the last several years, we have seen this spirit of witchcraft manifest itself in the world. This idea of controlling people, social distancing, putting on masks, mandates, and forced vaccinations to maintain your employment. These are all things that are from the dark side. Many years ago, 1961, President Kennedy, in the first few months of his administration, went to New York City and spoke before a group of newspaper publishers. And he said in his message, related to the fact that he was concerned about how he was to communicate what was going on in the political world as it related to the Cold War with Russia, and how he believed that the media had a responsibility to communicate in a way that would not give the enemy secrets. He said these words, which I think relate to this. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighs the dangers which are cited to justify it. At the beginning of this pandemic, certain things were known and they were kept in secret. I think there are still things that are kept in secret in this supposed pandemic that we have gone through. I believe there's a direct connection between this and evolution. Evolution is the scientific basis of what has manifested itself in the ideology that supported and underlined the philosophy of what took place. There is a direct connection, and one can, if one is patient, see that there's a direct connection between the idea of Darwinian evolution, the idea of the origins of species, which he wrote, and the idea of natural selection. If you understand how that came into place, you also know that it was not only Darwin's idea, but there was another gentleman whose name is Alfred Russel Wallace. And Alfred Russel Wallace, who was a co-contributor to this idea, which is the foundational philosophy of modern science, was also a spiritist. He dabbled in the dark arts, and it is suggested that maybe he even came to the same conclusion that Darwin did about the origin of species in some form of a mental trance. Paul talks about this and warns us about this in his letter to the church at Ephesus. He starts out by talking about the church as a family, the church as a body, the church as a temple of God. But at the end of the this letter, he says that the church is an army and that we're in a spiritual battle. There is a war raging. And I have suggested, and I am trying to emphasize to you, particularly to men, that the war is not political. The war is not material, is not kinetic, but it is spiritual. And it is your responsibility as men, as fathers, as husbands, to take responsibility of your homes, to take responsibilities of your community, and not to do it in a political way necessarily, though I do not say that you should not. What I am suggesting is that you look at the spiritual, the darkness, that which is behind, what motivates these individuals, these events that are taking place. Paul gives us a warning: do not be deceived with empty words, for because of such things God's wrath comes to those who are disobedient. Do not be deceived, for once you were in darkness, but now you are in light of the Lord. Live as children of the light and find out what pleases the Lord. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. The church's mission is to expose the darkness. And I believe there's much to expose, and there is much relevancy to what the scripture has to say to our day-to-day lives. Paul puts it another way: our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, that is, the archangels. Satan was an archangel who fell, and he came down and organized a system, which is the underlying spiritual system that motivates what is happening in the political, economic, academic, and otherwise what happens even in the home. Against authorities, angels, sub-powers that are influencing people at the local level and at the national level, and against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual evil in the heavenly realms. Paul reminds us, believers, that we once lived in this world and that we were motivated by the same ruler. Paul calls him the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. This morning is Sunday. I hope you will think of spiritual things today. I hope you will go to church. And if nothing else, you can listen to my message at treeridgecommunitychurch.org, probably tomorrow after it is posted. I hope you will have a blessed day, and may God richly bless you, my beloved.